So what this does is literally...
I'm just trying to understand what Denver did through the course of their normal business that we wouldn't do or we would choose not to do.
What? Number one was this, is that we would not let these folks literally enter the city if they were being brought in on buses.
So we're going to have police out on the borders of our city preventing buses?
Well, we would just simply turn them away.
Last night on Fox 23 News at 6:30, we brought you a story about illegal immigration in Tulsa, and one Tulsa City Councilor claims that we need to prepare now. Joining me live, unedited, is Tulsa City Councilor Jayme Fowler right here in Fox 23 studios to talk about the Safe City Ordinance. Councilor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Rick, good evening, and thank you for having me on. Pleasure.
Before we dive in, let's define Safe City for those who haven't been paying attention.
Well, you know what? So I guess it was about a year ago, we put together an ordinance, what we call Tulsa being an inviting city. And then things really kind of bloomed from there, and a year later, we came up with the idea of really making Tulsa what we call a safe city. And what we mean by that is that we really want to make sure that we safeguard our city resources and make sure that they go towards Tulsa citizens first. And that's what that safe city is all about.
You've been in office for 4 years. The border's been a mess for a while. Why do this now and not back then?
Well, if you look back a year from now, look back, this wasn't a big issue, but as the year has gone on, it's gotten to be a bigger and bigger and bigger issue as the year's gone on. And why now? We really want to make sure that we safeguard our assets of our city now. And we want to make sure that, what happens in the future, we're prepared for it.
We'll go back. I want to talk about Denver, but you did mention something at the top. There was a vote to classify Tulsa as a welcoming city last year, and you were a part of that.
Yeah.
Do you regret that, and do you think welcoming city is code name for sanctuary city?
You know what? I don't think it is, but there are a lot of people that are in the community that say, you know what, that is just simply wordplay. But I don't prescribe to that, quite frankly. But a lot of people do.
So when you've talked about this over the past month, you repeatedly referenced Denver. And I said last night, you are 100% correct on Denver being in a financial mess because of these migrants.
Yeah.
But Denver is Denver. Denver is a sanctuary city. Denver is being targeted by Greg Abbott for the bus loads. Tulsa is a welcoming city, and we are not being targeted by Greg Abbott.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're comparing apples to oranges, maybe a tangerine to a grapefruit.
Yeah.
Why should we prepare for something that's happening in a city with completely different dynamics?
Yeah, first of all, let me just kind of clarify, just for the record, that I never said that Greg Abbott was going to be bringing immigrants to Tulsa. And where that inference came from, I don't know. But I do want to make sure that, for the record, that I never stated that Governor Abbott was going to be bringing immigrants to Tulsa. Denver, it is a sanctuary city. And let me kind of give you a little bit of facts and perspective here, is that Denver is a population of about 700,000 people, give or take. It has a city budget of about $1.8 billion. They spend somewhere in the range of $180 million on homelessness. Of that $180 million, they spend somewhere in the range of a little over 12.5 million people, or excuse me, $12.5 million of sending illegal immigrants and asylum seekers to other cities. So you know what? That's where that potential problem could be.
Let me play a clip for you guys. We have it. It's called Two Buses. Let's play that.
Yeah.
And I want you to respond to this, if we could bring that up.
Denver alone had almost 40,000 last year brought to their city. If we had 2 bus loads, that would overwhelm our low barrier shelter.
What buses are you talking about?
You know what? I use that as just kind of a metaphor as context to give people an idea of just the number of people in a bus. And I didn't mean to infer in any way about buses coming from Denver to Tulsa, but just give people kind of a context, a size, the number of people that it would take to overwhelm our low barrier shelter.
Do you believe what is happening in Denver could happen to Tulsa?
You know what? Not on that scale, but you know what? We don't need it to happen on that scale to impact the city of Tulsa. We have somewhere in the range of 1,000 people out on our streets each and every night sleeping. So our low barrier shelter that we're getting ready to put in, it can take in somewhere in the range of about maybe 150 to 200 people. So it really doesn't take a lot to tip the scales as far as our resources. So no, it probably would never happen on the scale of Denver, but it really doesn't need to be on the scale of Denver. We just don't have those kind of resources.
Let me ask you, because your Safe City ordinance has kind of scared some of the nonprofits and the religious groups. This was a quote from someone I heard. We don't check IDs. We don't ask about status. If you're hungry, you're hungry. I'm afraid if I give a glass of water to an illegal immigrant on a hot day, you're going to take my money away from me. What do you say to these churches? Do you believe it's time to ID
No,
people?
it's, and let me clarify that as far as what the Safe City ordinance does and what it doesn't do. So there's two types of benefits as far as the city dollars used for public goods and public benefits. So public goods are meant to be things like police, fire, the use of streets, restrooms, and things of that nature. And then public services are what we call extra benefits. And what we mean by that, food, shelter, transportation. And that's what the ordinance was meant to address right in through there. So if we did find abuse as far as those extra benefits and services, and it was knowingly and it was continual, then that would be the issue.
Real quick before we go, this amendment was tabled 90 days. There was a legislative maneuver you were not happy about. Are you bringing this back in 90 days?
It's going to be, I believe, for 60 days. Okay. And so we're going to have a lot of dialogue, more community input, and we'll take a hard, long look at it. Yeah, a high probability.
Tulsa City Councilor Jayme Fowler, thank you for joining me
Rick,
today.
thank you, and good evening. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.